Today, I want to talk to you about something I kind of always talk about in a roundabout way. If you notice, there is a theme. The podcast is called Prioritized Focus. Um, but today, I want to talk to you specifically about productivity and three ways that you can improve your productivity, like starting today, right now. These three ways, these three areas, these three ideas, whatever you want to call them, we're going to just jump right into those three ways. All right. So we know that progress and true productivity comes from what I like to call prioritized focus, which is prioritizing your focus on the right things at the right time, right? Well, we all know this. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time dissecting that quote unquote key to success, putting our um, focus on the right things at the right time. So, you know me, no fluff. We're just going to get right to it. All right. So, the very first way that you can improve your productivity beginning today, and I'm going to call this improvement number one or area number one, is your environment. Think about it. Where is it that you're typically trying to be productive? What does that area look like? How does it make you feel? Listen, if I walk into my office and it's a hot mess and I see a ton of clutter, I don't always feel inspired. And I say I don't always feel inspired because sometimes that clutter and that mess means that I'm literally sorting through ideas and um, different things, research that I've started, and it's there, it's waiting for me, ready to jump in and go. There are other times where I walk into my office and it's just been the, you know, accumulation or the dumping ground. Oh, I'll get to that later. Let me put it there. Oh, I'll get to that later. Let me put that there. And now it's kind of like, ugh. You know, clutter is a total hindrance to our productivity and our ability to really be productive. And it's not just the physical clutter either. And I've written about that before too, about mental clutter and the stuff that we jam inside of our heads that we don't ever let out. That's why I love and am always a huge um, advocate for journaling. And there are, specific spaces for you to journal in your 30-day planner. So it's not just your physical environment, but it's also your mental environment, your mind space. What's going on in there? Sometimes, even though we try and solve everything in one area, in one place, and even in our minds, and it's important to take time to clean it up. Our physical spaces, clean it up. Our mental spaces, maybe some things are beyond our ability to clean up, but we can at least start the process, get it out of our head and onto paper. Brain dump is a huge thing for me. Sometimes I'll just get a piece of paper and I'll just start writing junk that comes into my head that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But if I go back and look, I'm like, oh, look at that. You can connect the dots here. Anyway, back to our environment. So another area that we're still on environment, so I'm not jumping ahead here for a second. I'm talking about physical environments. I touched a little bit on our mental mindset environment, but there's also another environment that we tend to neglect, and that is our people environment. That includes people that we surround ourselves with. These people can make a difference in how much we actually get done too. And I don't mean just get done, but also progress, right? And this includes social media. How much time do we spend on social media? And what exactly are we scrolling for? What answers are we looking for or hoping to find on social media? Now, mind you, yes, there are things that we discover that maybe we haven't. If you follow me at all on social media, you kind of know that I'm hardly ever there. And there's a reason for that. It's like, it's a time suck most of the time. It's a rabbit hole. Um, and here's the thing. Sometimes they don't even need you to be present. What they say and how people treat you can stick around in your mind and affect your mindset long after you've left their physical presence. So let's be conscious of your physical environment, your mental environment, and your people environments are significant contributing factors to your productivity. Okay, so that is area of improvement number one to increase and improve your productivity, and that's your environment, your physical environment, your mental environment, and I like to say your people environment. So let's take a look at area or improvement number two. And this one is your experience. Now, you don't think of experience as a way or a place um, that could improve your productivity. But once you've assessed your environment, you really have to get honest about your experience. And honestly, maybe this is why we hide behind social media so much. We're sitting there scrolling, looking for that magic pill, that answer that's just going to be like, oh, that's it. That's what I've been missing. No, what you've been missing is your own personal experience. Try. The only way that you become experienced is through practice and through trying. And we spend so much time wanting to protect ourselves from quote unquote failure. But it's not really failure, it's learning. And you're gaining experience. Sometimes, depending on what we're working on, we're gaining a whole lot of experience in what not to do, right? So, another mantra that we hear all the time is work smarter, not harder. But for so many of us, we're nowhere near as productive as we could be simply because we lack the experience. And we're so good at deciding to go after some big goals, but we don't always factor in or recognize our experience level in a realistic time frame to achieve that big goal. See, we have no problems planning, we have no problems dreaming, we have no problem articulating what we want in the end. But a lot of times we lack factoring our level of experience. It's not that we can't achieve that dream. It's not that we can't achieve that goal. It's we probably can't achieve it in the time constraints that we put on ourselves. We want it now. We want it so quickly. We want it as quick as possible. Some things take time and experience. What if we looked at our level of experience and instead marked out what I like to call stretch goals on our way to the big goal, instead of always grinding and hustling and working harder? What if we adopted a habit of what's the smallest thing that I can do in order to get to that goal? If you can't get from the couch to the treadmill, what's the smallest thing that you could do? Put on your sneakers. Walk over to the treadmill. Say, I'm going to walk for a minute. Now, those seem so small and ridiculous, but what's going to happen? Once you put your sneakers on and walk over to the treadmill, you're like, well, I may as well get on here. And you know what? I'm just going to walk for a minute. You went through all that trouble. Do you really think you're only going to walk for a minute? You're going to at least do 5, right? And then that's going to increase. The small things that you can do to build those habits increases your experience. When you create your habits, you're creating practices and you're gaining, that experience. We have to start thinking smaller, thinking more immediate, thinking in 5-minute increments and 15-minute increments in what can I get done before lunch? What can I get done before dinner? What can I do just before I go to bed? Right? All right. So awareness of your experience when it comes to tackling a big goal will greatly increase your productivity. Try. What can you try? We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. So that's improvement number 2. Improvement or area number 1 is environment. Area number 2 or improvement number 2 was your experience. Now, improvement or area number 3 is probably the hardest one out of all of them, execution. And honestly, do we really need to elaborate on the importance of this factor? Probably not. But in case it's not as obvious to everyone, productivity is not about how much you do as it is what you actually get done. Hang on. Productivity is not about how much you do as it is what you actually get done. In other words, focus on how much you get done versus on how much you actually do. That, my friends, is a huge secret to increasing your productivity. Execution. You can't execute what you haven't tried or practiced. That's your experience. And where are you doing it? Your environment. These 3 areas. I have a bonus tip for you to go along with these. You notice I used all E's. You know I love alliteration, right? So we've got improvement area number 1 is your environment, your physical space, your mental space, and your people space. What clutter needs to go? What types of environments increase your productivity? Improvement area number 2 is your experience. Try it. You got to keep trying. And when you factor into that big, huge goal, also think about your experience level. Okay. And the third one is execution. You just got to do it. Focus more on what you get done more than what you're busy, doing. All the things, right? So the last, or I like to say the bonus one, is experiment. What works? What doesn't? See, we like to plan in perfection, forgetting that we live in reality. Listen, everything looks great on paper. Everything, works out perfectly on paper. We don't live on paper. We live in reality where we're interrupted constantly. We're interrupted by people. We're interrupted by circumstances. We're interrupted by our own thoughts every 10 seconds or less, right? So it's good to have a plan, but keep in mind what's your reality, what's your experience, What are you knowingly going to execute? And I say knowingly, like, you. If you tell your friend that, yeah, you're going to go run a 5K, you know, and you don't work up to that and you just think you're going to show up that day and do it, you. What's going to get you to that point? A little bit at a time, consistency. Experiment. Experimenting is a whole lot more freeing, and I like to say more fun than the pressure you put on to follow your perfect plan on paper. Oh, with the alliteration today, I've got E's and P's. That is your, I guess, tip for today. 3 ways to improve your productivity. And these are things that you can do today. What can you do to clean up your environment? Those 3 areas that we talked about. What can you do today to improve your experience? Practice, try. How can you execute something? It doesn't have to be perfect. What can you finish before the end of the day today? What small thing that that's going to move you closer? All right, I've rambled on long enough. Thank you very much for listening. If you are watching this on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe button. If you are over on the podcast, hit a follow over there. And there is also a blog post that this is based off of over on the website, deanafarrell.com. All right, thanks. Have a great day. And I will see you, or show up next time.